So it is not the soul that goes only. So what goes out is a complete invisible human being. I have worked with more than 6,000 such souls of dead people who are residing in various human beings. And my research is also to ask them, how do you operate? Who are you? How do you roam around? How do you create your desires into the human being? Right? They can take a man to the bar exactly at 8 o'clock because that is what he used to do when he was in his body. He can make you smoke. He can take you to the red light areas. Right? It can give you its thought if it enters your body. If somebody has read Three Faces of Eve, which came out in 1965 as a psychiatric case, right? So we need to understand that it is not the soul that gets out of the body, but the complete person with all its imprints, all marks of the injuries, all illnesses that you have, everything is there in that body. I have had a case of a girl, I was sharing with Tony the other day, who was living in a PG accommodation, and after she had come from Japan for therapy, and one night she had gone away from my place around 7 o'clock in the evening. At 10 o'clock she gives me a call. She says, Dr. Shahji, I've got all symptoms of a heart attack. What do I do? I didn't understand. For a moment I said, just sit down in meditation for 5 minutes and tell yourself inside, whosoever is causing these feelings, I'll get you released tomorrow in the morning. After 15 minutes I get a call. Says, no symptoms. I'm okay. Next day she came. We took her into a trance. And I said, go to the time that you felt those symptoms. And then I went to the cause. The landlord of that house, whose bedroom it was when he was living, where that girl was staying, had been observing this child, girl, 30-year-old girl, coming to me and coming back, and thought, I'm stuck here, now I got an opportunity to leave. So he gave that symptom, that girl, accompanied that girl, came to me, released him. I sent him into the light on his way back. And after 2 months, I met the son. And I said, your father died of a heart attack. He was shocked. He said, how do you know? I said, I was talking to your father. So we don't understand death. I've got 13 books on death, published by very, very great people of India. Not one of them mentions what is death, what goes out of it. We only say Atma, and it is gone. The number of people in the what we call the Bordeaux is 3 times the population, living population on earth at the moment. And the masters keep saying, Yogesh, this is the biggest work we have to do. We have to help these souls come back. They are stuck. Who would believe? And 70% of our problems is caused by them going into our body. I'm sorry, I'm sharing.
Okay. We need to move on.
Thank you very much for listening.
Go to those 3.
Advertisement and all. It's not that. Unless you do yum yum and follow yum yum in depth, it's no use doing asana because you're not clear your channels. You understand the difference? So the asana is only for flexibility of the body to be able to sit in a meditative pose for, if required, hours if you want. But definitely in a sufficient amount of time for your body not to speak to you. Otherwise the body starts saying, stretch leg, this do, takes away your diversion from your meditation, which is calming your thing, right? So here you can talk to the system within your body. Next one I think is the immune system, if I'm not wrong. What should I address you as, immune system?
Light.
Light?
Light.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. He means energy in us. If we do not behave with love towards ourselves and others, it goes down completely and stops protecting you. Immune system is activated only by the energy of love. Only energy of love. I remember a case of it's both combined. She had an autoimmune disease and she came to me. I had known her for a long time. And in one of the sessions after we had done a lot of clearing of her feelings and etc. etc. A stage came, one day it came that she saw her mother-in-law coming in. I've talked to my own father after 30 years of his death. So her mother-in-law came in. I asked her, how do you see her? She says, she's looking so pretty and beautiful. She's looking so young. She had died around 69, 70. So I said, what is she saying to you? So says, she's saying that you were supposed to serve me with love. He was speaking Chesh Punjabi, but I'm just translating into English. You were supposed to serve me. You did a good job of serving me, but you served me without love. Then she understood how she had damaged her immune system. This was 7 years ago, and now she's recovered from her immune problem. So what happens is, love is the primary force because God is love. So in one of the sessions, as I got the information from the source, he says, Yogesh, don't remember me. Just be with love. If you are with love, I am always there. So we need to understand the power of love. We don't see it many times in our society today. So immune system is actually the interface energy within us which constantly receives the energy of the Supreme Being for our well-being and becomes a system within us. It breaks down only when we don't function with love. So my thoughts, as he said, there are dark arrows coming at me, your thoughts are hindering me, etc., etc. So many a times under the sessions when we interact with these energies and all, we get a lot of fundamental information of both creation, the being, the well-being, everything is there. And I've got tons of information. I wish there could be somebody who could handle it.
Thank you, Yogesh. That was wonderful. Thank you. A little story so that we can wrap this up. And after that, what we will do is I'm going to ask Rajinder Sood, who is permanent master of ceremonies, a founder, member of the institute, and he is the MC for all our major events. I handle the mini ones like this, yeah. And so we will both work together to take all the questions you have in one shot, yeah, because there will be duplicate questions. We will deduplicate them and we'll try to answer as many as we can in the next 15 minutes or so, and we wrap up in the next 15, 20 minutes. Okay, is that a deal? Okay, so can I ask Sonali? Please, Sonali, come and share your story. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for having me here today.
Pleasure.
And thank you very much, sir. I stand here today because of you. I received an email from Akanksha a few days ago, and she wanted me to share my journey with Dr. Chaudhary. And I sat back and I thought, this is easy. It's trying to explain why Kattappa killed Bahubali in one sentence. It's been 9 years with Dr. Chaudhary, and my journey started with him. And I'm not going to try and romanticize this. I was seeking help. My family was going through an extremely serious crisis situation, and we wanted to seek answers to a lot of things. And that led me to Dr. Chaudhary. And I walked in as a client, and I was lucky enough because he took me as a student a couple of years later. And today, I practice therapy. I am a qualified hypnotherapist. And after 150 sessions, and a lot of learning that we've received, all of us, and I think there are 13 or 14 of us over here, that we've received from Dr. Chaudhary, I think I've gone through a huge journey of self-transformation. Akanksha, the journey was more inward, I think, and I think we spoke about that as well. I think my life in the last couple of years has been really, really turbulent, and I've had some really serious personal challenges. And hypnotherapy came in, and I learned a lot of processes like miniaturization, where Sir has taught us how you can actually miniaturize an astral body and go in and talk to physical systems of the body and actually heal. We are using those every day in therapy. I have had a personal experience where Dr. Chaudhary actually saw me walk into class really sick one day because I'd had some very, very serious issues. And he looked at me and he says, "Sonali, cut the cord." And I had no clue as to what that meant. And this is an experience I'd like to share with you to actually explain how powerful hypnotherapy as an alternate healing medium is and how little we know of it. And I had never regressed. I'd never had the opportunity, and I thought, this is just not for me. And then came a situation where I was faced with a lot of pain. And I found myself in class with about 13 students and Dr. Chaudhary. And he put me on a chair, and I regressed all right. It took 15 minutes, and we did what we call cord cutting. And I don't think we've spoken so much about inner child healing today, there's a plethora of information, and there's so much more to share. I think, thank you very much for at least giving us a platform to share a little bit of it. But there I was sitting in that chair, and I could see a cord, and this is a cord like steel, running through my solar plexus to the solar plexus of the other person that I had had relationship issues with since the last X years. And I was so amazed, because whatever you have read or whatever we studied in class does not prepare you for the experience that you go through. When you go through pain and you actually see that cord running through you, it was like a steel pipe. It was this thick. And he says, "Look on your left," and I see an axe there. I take that axe and actually cut the cord. I think my healing, there was a lot of pain that I was going through, and I think within the next 24 hours, I felt so much relief. And I think that was the day I became a true therapist, because the belief in the power of this, how powerful this therapy is, and because we work with the mind, I think this therapy largely works, and I think Dr. Chaudhary's explained it extremely well, but this therapy works by us accessing the subconscious mind and working with the subconscious mind, which is so powerful, and it takes you to the origin of whatever problem you may be facing. It could be mental, it could be emotional, and it sooner or later manifests as physical. So I think this healing, if practiced well, is not only very, very effective in dealing with mental, emotional, and physical issues, but it also prevents a lot of physical illnesses. So thank you very much, sir. I think a lot of people in this room will join me in thanking you today, and as we continue to learn from you. Thank you very much.
As a proxy live testimonial. So the live testimonial is here, the proxy is there. And it's only because I'm a student of this. So there are a couple of quick stories I want to take you through. So what you'll get right now in about 2.5 minutes is just the story, not the story behind the story really. And the first is, this is a situation about a lady just post-menopausal, 3 years after menopause, and suddenly incidents of very high bleeding. Is that better? Sorry about it. Unexplained bleeding, and all the regular therapeutic advice that one took came to a situation of necessarily having to go through operation. there was a example, not an example, there was suspicion of it being malignant. So with that background, and one is not prepared for all of this, hypnotherapy was a natural choice. And under trance, what came about was not just insight, but resolution, one session. And here's what happened. So as I think somebody mentioned miniaturization, etc. So very briefly in that session, one miniaturized went to the uterus area, talked to the uterus, talked to the cells around, and said, what's happening? Why is this bleeding happening? And there's instances of, there was explanation of physical damage with the layer of, the tissues within the uterus actually experiencing friction, etc., which caused the bleeding. So during the therapy, two things happened. One is an explanation of why that was so, which is the inner conscience, the cellular memory, and the conscience of all the organs around, in the system around, saying that this person has blocked the feeling of need for proximity. I mean, I'm not phrasing it exactly right from that session at this point in time. And as a result of that, that thought that I don't need this anymore followed the same cascade which was there on one of his slides. That one thought led to that emotion, and eventually down the cascade, the physical flow of those juices, as it was the word used in the session as juices, stopped. So juices stopped, the friction started and led to bleeding. So one was this explanation of this cause, etc. And the actual healing in that session was the golden light. So there are many, many energies, and we encounter some of the most rewarding ones are when we encounter the divine energies. They come in different forms, almost always, not almost always, every single time to help not just the client, but many cases to help the therapist as well. So this one form of the divine energy came and said, job is done, she's been cleared. So 2 days later, when one went back to the actual test in the hospital, they did have to do a biopsy, and the complications because of respiratory issues, you couldn't do anesthesia, etc. But 2 days later, the validation was everything was clear. Actually, the bleeding had stopped, and it was all out of the system. 48 hours.